I'm Corbett Wall with DVAuction, here with your feeder flash for Thursday, November the 9th, brought to you in part by Vitalix Lick Tubs. Stretch your profits with every lick. And stay tuned right here on the feeder flash for some exciting stuff from Vitalix. We're going to be giving away free tubs after the first of the year. Get the blue tub. Your cows will love you. Go to Vitalix.com. Wild reversal, and this board has gotten so frustrating, and people that I know that have been traders, brokers, watching the board every day for 20 or 30 years have never been as sick of it as they are right now. On Wednesday we saw wild reversal, and we don't know whether it's going to hold the gains that we saw late in the trading session on Wednesday. But right after the open, it whipped down hard, and people were scratching their heads and feeling like they were, on Tuesday. And then all of a sudden, it turned right around and went higher. And we actually saw some pretty decent gains on the day. But when you don't have any confidence in it at all, it's just really frustrating. But you're in the last few days, your futures have lost their premium to current cash, and we're not seeing those big fancy prices out there like we used to. And maybe that's what they wanted to happen, so people wouldn't be getting the LRPs as much. I've been preaching to you guys for the last year or two about getting these LRPs, and we had those big fancy prices out there, and now they're mostly gone. So that was a missed opportunity if you didn't do that. For you guys that did do that, you're still going to see a nice payday here at the end. But some people are just saying it's an adjustment in expectations. Well, so our future's not as bright as what we thought. Our numbers are still extremely tight. Our supplies are down. Our supplies are going to get even lighter. I've seen the last few weeks here on the big fancy strings of calves that are coming in the northern plains and in the Midwest and places. I've just now, over the last few weeks, started seeing that there's fewer heifer calves selling compared to the steer calves. That's the first sign that we've seen of any kind of rebuilding happening. And I'm talking about mostly light calves, guys, 4 and 5 weight calves. It's going to be a long time before we see any bigger numbers of cattle at all different classes. But we've already decided that we got to adjust our expectations here for the market. The Packers have been all heart this week. We saw on Wednesday where they were coming out with some $1.80 bids. Isn't that wonderful when the market's 185? We did see a little bit of trade from 180 to 182, which is pitiful. And it seems like your cattle feeders had a little bit of sympathy for your Packers being so tight bought and everything. They went ahead and sold them some cattle late last week because they're not filling all their needs with their AMA cattle, or the cattle that they've got coming automatically on formula. So they've got to dig and get some extra cattle from the cash market. And late on Friday last week, when I was begging them to lock the gates, they went ahead and puked them some cattle at steady prices. That was sympathy for the Packers. We want them to do well. We need them. So what happens whenever the board craters again this week? Packers come out with 180. That's the way they treat you guys. Remember that. You got to remember those kinds of things whenever it comes to that. But supposedly our demand for beef is down. I don't know anybody that's decided that they don't like beef. And I can understand that some people that earn less money are having to make some decisions. They don't get to eat beef as often as they used to. They're still going to get their beer and cigarettes, so I guarantee you. And they're saying that our box beef, even though it's really failed to rally here this November, that choice cuts are still really high, and that the choice cuts are near all-time records for this date. but they're nowhere near where they were setting during the COVID and the gouging that the packers did during the COVID. We haven't even scraped the surface of where they could get to, but that was only in that period of time right there when COVID was at its absolute worst, when your packers were making over $2,500 per carcass, and they didn't share any of that with you, even though they say that you guys are in the beef business too. But and this board is just very frustrating. I hope we get enough trade in it, enough interest in the board where it'll quit these whipsaw runs. But the algorithms are going to be there. They're still going to be doing it, and every morning, you know, your cattle people are just going to have to cringe when they look at the board for the first time in hopes that it hasn't gone down $5 or $6 in one whack. But I said on our last visit that CME should take some ownership of this failure of the board here this week that's been well represented. But the NCBA, the National Corporate Beef Association, they're going to continue to support the CME because all the changes that the CME has made over the last several years for the short side, for the short guy, which has ran all of our longs off, which is the reason why we don't have any play in it, and it's such a shallow pool that you can't trust it anymore. All of those changes were requested by NCBA. They wanted to do that, and of course CME wanted more trade, and so they did it, but now we've scared all the longs off, and it's just a downer on our cash market, and it's hurting everybody. But we are having fun with the Punchy Pick of the Month contest, and you guys have been following that, and we get lots of punchy picks every day, and we start narrowing them down when it gets later in the month. But you know, if you see something punchy that happens in your daily routine, snap a picture of it with your cell phone, email it to us at punchy@nationalbeefwire.com. Automatically entered to win the grand prize. Top prize is some really cool swag from Beaver Feed Company in Beaver, Oklahoma. Some cool stuff from Beaver County Stockyards in Beaver, Oklahoma. And then of course that whole case of Farapiece, which you guys surely have heard of by now. It's a revolutionary product. People are loving it. Be sure to stay tuned at the end of this feeder flash video. I'm going to tack on a video about Farapiece, and you can learn some more about it. Let's talk about that disappointing board on Wednesday. December live cattle futures up 62 cents at 179.40. February up $1.05 at 179.47. Your back months up 27 cents to up $1.02. Now we see the wide swing just on Wednesday. Your February contract live cattle, the low was all the way down to 176 at one point. You could see why people were freaking out. And then the high was up as high as 180.35, nearly a $4 swing there. That volatility, it doesn't help anybody but the traders, guys, and it hurts people. Let's talk about your feeder cattle for November, up 232 on Wednesday at closing at 234.55. January up $1.95 at 232.77. Your back months were up 57 cents to up $1.75. The January contract for feeder cattle had a low of 227.42 and a high of 233.20, nearly a $6 trading range there. And like I talked about, you know, it had fears in people and then coming back up, but they don't have any trust in the futures market anymore. December corn was up 7.5 cents, closing regular trading at 4.76. November beans up ¼ cent a bushel at 13.49. Kansas City hard red winter wheat for December up 22.5 at 6.55 a bushel. Your fat cattle trade, still haven't seen anything. We have not established a price. The packers have talked a few guys into giving in at sharply lower prices just because the board failed. No other reason, nothing fundamental. They're still extremely short bought, extremely tight numbers of market ready cattle, and they're convincing a few people to sell out. In Iowa, they sold 2,400 head on Wednesday and nearly 5,000 for the week. Your live price was 180 to 182 and dress price at 287. Nebraska sold 600 head at 181. That's sure $4 cheaper, guys. Kansas didn't sell anything. Texas 100 head at 180 there, and I'll just go ahead and call them a weak sister for that. But Sioux Falls Regional Livestock in Worthing, South Dakota, brick and mortar sale barn there, they sold 1,200 fats at auction with competitive bidding. Market was still $2 to $3 lower, with prices through the ring 180 to 183 for conventional cattle, with non-implanted or drug-free cattle up to 184. Box beef cutout values were mixed. Choice cuts down $1.63 at $298.75. Selects up $1.55 at $271.03. Your slaughter 371,000 through the first 3 days of the week. That's 1,000 less than last week, 7,000 less than the same week a year ago. Talk about what else is going on. Livestock Risk Services, your LRP specialists, and they've got lots of agents that will be glad to answer your questions or help you out with any needs that you might have. But on top of the LRPs that they know so much about, they are also experts in the PRF, the pasture, range, and forage rainfall coverage. So I know you guys be interested in that. Check and see how that would have worked for you over the last several years. Go to LivestockRiskServices.com. Talk about your feeder cattle market, your real-time index on DVAuction. Late in the day on Wednesday, sitting at 232.24, down $2.33. You can't turn those cash markets around on a dime like you can your futures market there. So they didn't get that big reversal there. CME cash feeder cattle index still hanging way up there. I'm not sure. I haven't really went through and done the data, but when these new prices come out, the market reporters are just not putting those cattle in. They're leaving them out. They're doing something. There's a reason that CME cash feeder cattle index latest available is hanging up there at 238.13. About all that's doing is costing folks that are cashing in their LRPs that are selling calves right now. It's costing them about $5 a hundred, and I wouldn't be surprised if they're getting kind of sick of that. How about your big sales on Wednesday? OKC West, El Reno, Oklahoma, 8,200 head. The last good test was 2 weeks ago. Feeder steers were $1 to $3 lower. Feeder heifers are $3 to $6 lower. Calves were $10 to $15 higher. Tell you what, they sell the calves on Tuesdays, the feeders on Wednesday. If you're interested in that sale barn there in El Reno, Oklahoma, tune in to DVAuction.com. You can view and bid that sale every week. Winter Livestock in Dodge City, Kansas sells 3,500 head compared to just last week. Feeder steers were steady to $2 higher. Big calves selling steady to $2 lower. Lighter calves from 400 to 600 pounds, $10 to $15 higher. And those are steers. Your feeder heifers weighing under 550 pounds, $3 to $7, or over 550 pounds, $3 to $7 lower. Under 550 pounds, $8 to $10 higher. Poor market reporting in Kansas. It's really hard to give out those trends, and I don't have a lot of confidence in them. But your NationalBeefWire stick-out sale of the day was Bassett Livestock Auction in Bassett, Nebraska. Had 3,250 head there. Under 550 pounds, $13 to $19 higher. Of course, they hit hard because they were such a premium sale whenever the market cratered there the last time. However, your bigger cattle from $2 to $7 lower where they were tested. But, Bassett's not immune to lower markets. They are a premium sale, but the market's going to go down there just like it does everywhere else. Look at this automated market report through Cattle Market Central. You see 503 head of 4-weight steer calves in Bassett, Nebraska. They average 459 with a weighted average price of $329.26. 1,198 head of 5-weight steers averaged 549 at $300.96. 437 head of 6-weight steer calves, Bassett Livestock, they averaged 651, weighted average price 271.68, and only one well-tested group of heifers there. They are starting to keep some of those back. 414 head of 4-weight heifer calves, average 454, weighted average price 278.46. Stick out sales. How about Parsons, Kansas? Parsons Livestock Auction sold 125 head of all black long time weaned calves, weighed 740 pounds and bring 259.75. Pretty impressive there. Bassett Livestock Auction individual quote, best quote we've seen on light 5-weight calves for a long time. 90 head, 502 pound steer calves and Bassett bring 344. But the most impressive quote that I saw anywhere on Wednesday, your Macrocin No BS top quote for the day, come out of Albion Livestock in Albion, Nebraska, was 85 big steers, weighed 853 and bring 251.50. And that's your feeder flash for Thursday.